Joseph, you're muted, so if you can unmute.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who has joined us today. It's really a privilege to share our experience right here in the field with the rest of the network. We want to also share what works and what we can all pull together to accomplish. So we are happy to share with you the rest of the experiences we have had here with GIS. And it's interesting to know that over the years we have used GIS to assess our performance here in the field. We've used it for our sustainable livelihoods approach, activities. We utilize GIS to map crop value chain actors in an accurate manner so that we are able to establish the real acres they are cultivating. We use it in various ways, even in our health projects. And so it has helped us a lot, and I'm happy that the one who has been leading this, Mr. Joseph Pampa Dindio, is here to share with us how he's able to do it and make it helps us to achieve results. And so I want to introduce him. Mr. Pampa Dindio is our GIS meal manager, and he's been with ADRA for so many years. He's one of the old staff we have here. He holds a master's degree in GIS Geoinformation Science from the University of Ghana. He had his bachelor's degree also from the University of Cape Coast and in mathematics. So you can understand why he's so obsessed with data and all that. So he uses this to achieve a lot of good for our projects. And in fact, in monitoring our projects, the GIS has been helping a lot. We also would want to say that we have incorporated the use of a drone technology in our operations when we do mapping and all that. Those places that we cannot reach, we use the drone to gather information for us. And so without delay, I will want to pass on to Mr. Joseph Pampa Dindio, who is a well-experienced GIS fellow. In fact, he has a fellow from Danish something. Danida. Yeah. So he is well established. He knows what he does, and what he is going to present to us, I'm sure, is going to help revolutionize our monitoring in our various project activities. Thank you very much, Mr. Dindiok. You are welcome, and please take over.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Brown, for the introduction. So I think time is past gone. Let me just go ahead and share my screen, and we can pick it from there. So please give me some few minutes to share my screen. Yes, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so before this, let me just run through some slides to put the whole presentation in a context, building upon what David did yesterday. So today's presentation is on GIS applications and use cases in sustainable livelihoods health, education, and emergency management programming. And here we are pleased to share ADRA Ghana's success stories. So a bit of what you should expect. So this webinar is an in-depth exploration of the GIS world, focusing on its applications and uses within ADRA Ghana's core programs, that is sustainable livelihoods, health, education, and emergency management. Here, you uncover how GIS can be used for monitoring to empower public health response and access, improve education access, and strengthen emergency readiness and response. We will highlight GIS potential to drive positive changes and promote sustainability within the network through real-world cases and practical insights. So get inspired by ADRA Ghana's success stories and gain a profound understanding of how GIS shapes future humanitarian and development initiatives. Okay, so this is what you should expect in this webinar by way of outline. Sorry, just a minute. Okay, so introduction. We have an introduction to this webinar. Then we'll have examples, use cases. We have examples in sustainable livelihoods, health, education, emergency management, and then we'll look at common patterns of GIS use. Then from there, we look at how we can develop and execute a geospatial strategy. Then there's this question of what can we do as individuals and country offices to get GIS implemented. Then a conclusion, then we'll have a Q&A session. So just to build on what David did yesterday, I will say that ADRA Ghana is using geographic information systems as a monitoring tool to collect, store, query, analyze, and display output, geographically referenced or location-aware data for all our projects. For the sake of convenience and status, the GIS is simply defined as a database that is linked to a map. In that case, we're looking at a quantitative view or analysis of the world. So there's a saying that if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a map generated using GIS may be worth 1,000 tables. We use GIS-based maps to quickly detect whether databases are clustered, dispersed, or randomly distributed in a given geographic area. Hence, geographic queries and analysis that provide information for evidence-based decision-making are made with ease. So, spatial thinking. Spatial thinking and GIS have become increasingly important in various sectors, including agriculture, health, urban planning, transportation, climate adaptation, environmental management, and disaster response. So GIS is a powerful tool that enables spatial thinking by providing a platform for integration, analysis, and visualization of spatial data. So in this webinar, we will explore the power of spatial thinking and GIS, highlighted its applications and use cases in sustainable developments, sustainable livelihoods, health, education, and then emergency response. So use case number 1. Here we are going to explore how ADRA is using mapping. We are using GIS to map and monitor some of our projects. And in this case, we are zeroing it down to cash flow value chains. And here, the users are looking at an application, a GIS application that is deployed, and ADRA staff and the Department of Agriculture that is responsible for agriculture programming in Ghana to use these applications and then get these cash flow value chains mapped. Then the goal is to improve yields and income and promote sustainable livelihoods. So how do we go about it? Steps. So we deploy the app via mobile phones, tablets, and ADRA staff and AEs are able to use these devices to collect data offline or connected environments. So the data they collect from the field is transmitted to ADRA Ghana's GIS system in real time for remote monitoring and evaluation. So in that case, our GIS systems analyzes the data and visualizes information for informed decision making. So here we're talking about agriculture, technology, recommendations that we are able to come with from these data collection exercises. Then we find a way of getting it back to the farmers just for them to apply those recommendations, adopt the technologies, and then improve their incomes and then yields. So this is case number 1. And let me pause here and go into action to show you how this is done. So just a minute to show my screen. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. This is a decision support system that we developed using ArcGIS operations dashboard. So data that is collected from the field is being transmitted and visualized on this dashboard for remote monitoring and decision making. So this project was a cashew project that brought cashew value chain actors together. So thinking about the existing farmers, cashew farmers, new farmers that we brought on board, input dealers, nut collectors, and then orders. So we brought all of these actors together under one platform. It's low? Very low. Oh, okay. Sorry, I understand my audio is low. I don't know what is the case. If can you confirm that?
It's good from our end, so you can continue. When you go into the presentation slides, though, please show the presentation slides, not the presenter view, so that we just see the slides you're presenting.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. So let me just go through this dashboard and show you how we use this for reporting and monitoring. So as you can see, this is a map of Ghana, and even without showing you, sorry. Without showing or telling you where these project actors were based, you are able to see on the map the cluster of the cashew value chain actors dotted around the map of Ghana. So the project was undertaken around Bunu East, Bunu, and Ashanti regions of Ghana. So in your shot, you have the value chain actors there. So for instance, we had to share this dashboard to our donors, and they could remotely see where their money was going, and to serve as accountability, they could just also even look for certain things that we have reported to confirm that these activities were actually done. So for instance, if I decide to look for just a farmer that we have trained under this project, a farmer called Kingsley Opare. Yeah, so Kingsley pops up, and then you click on Kingsley's, what is his name, and you are able to see Kingsley's farmland planted with cashew. And a click of it will give you a pop-up, and it details all the agronomic activities that Kingsley received and all support that was given to him. And in this case, you can also see Kingsley standing by one of the plants. This was taken during the monitoring visit. So this system, you are able to attach photos, files, video footages, whatever you get on monitoring, or whatever pictures that and footages that you take during monitoring. So in your shot, you can see Kingsley there. You click on this to open a full picture of it. And of course, all the details about Kingsley is here, including the agronomic practices that we gave to Kingsley. So enough of that for now. So let me say that there are other farms that are dotted around. If you observe in the map, you will see other cashew farms around. So those that you see that are in polygons, remember David talked about polygons yesterday. So in this particular project, we collected polygon data and then point data. We didn't have enough money to measure all these farmlands to get the acreage. But for the new farms, we were able to deploy AEs and then our field officers to measure all this. But then you realize that there are also some dots, color-coded dots. For instance, this color represents existing farmers, and you can see them also dotted around there. So these are existing farmers or existing farms that are in the area, and then you can also find nut pickers around there. So it was a comprehensive project that we brought all these value chains together. And how did they help? Those farmers who wanted to buy inputs for their farms now could easily link with the Ministry of Agriculture to get locations of where these input dealers are, and they could easily get whatever inputs that they wanted. And then this system was also, we are able to also use this system with the local authorities to track these actors and be able to help the district assemblies to tax these actors. So at the end of the project, the district assembly assemblies that we worked with recorded increases in revenue. In the past, they were not even tracking these actors. These actors were just selling and getting their profits, and then nothing was coming to the local authority. But as a result of this project, now the local authorities could track the actors and then tax them. So let me see, for reporting purposes, we were able to, you see, this system is made in such a way that you can just filter. You filter, for instance, a year. It's not showing. Hello? Hello?
Yes, hi, David.
Yes, hello.
Yes. Please,
Just
can
can
you see my screen?
Yes, we see your screen.
Yes, perhaps your network. Your network is not good. Okay, sorry about that. I think some colleagues cannot see. They are just seeing a still picture of me and they cannot see anything. But once you guys can see, let me proceed. So for reporting, it was as the officers were collecting the data, it was just possible to filter, for instance, a particular year. This project was implemented in 3 years, but it took us just 2 years to be able to gather the data that we needed. So you can see it started in data collection started in 2019 and then 2020. So for instance, if you were to look at let me show you this. Number supported, the number of beneficiaries that were reached. So we targeted 14,500 beneficiaries, and we ended up reaching 14,966. So in a particular year, it was just possible to filter for that year. And then you see, in year 2019, we were able to achieve about 93.6% of what we targeted. So it made reporting very easy. Unlike cases where you have a lot of disjointed Excel sheets flying here and there, some in Word, and then all that. When it comes to reporting, it becomes very difficult to kind of synchronize these data sets. But with this GIS system, it is just possible to put all these data sets into one platform, and then you deploy it, and then you have these filters that you can easily use to dissect the data and get whatever you want. So for instance, in 2019, if we wanted to know what each district contributed to this achievement, so you could just filter for district. For instance, you could say Tyne district. Let's see what they got in 2019. So they were able to, they are overachieved their target by 5.4%, as you can see. The same way, if we were to look at another district like ADRA, you can also see they also overachieved by almost 60%. So this is just to show how friendly this system is and how it helps in reporting. So there are a number of indicators here that we set for the project. We could also look at gender. So in terms of gender, the same filters could apply so that you are able to report exactly what the number of people that you reach. So how are these figures collected? Where are these figures coming from? That is the question I believe somebody will be trying to do. Let me show you how the data collection is done. So this is a web-based application, a dashboard that is outputting the results. But how is this data collected? We deployed this system through Survey 123. And as you can see, this is the form here, designed the form and then deployed it through Survey 123 and trained our staff and MOFA AEs. MOFA here stands for Ministry of Agriculture, and AEs, those in the livelihoods programming would know an AE is Agriculture Extension Agent. So we trained them to use this system. So basically what they were doing is to just select the particular region that they were operating from, then go ahead to look for the district that they were operating from, then the operational area. Let me search for a farmer around Busunya operational area. So it pops up Busunya, and then you find your farmers in communities. Let me say that these farmers were already pre-primed. We primed them for this project. We registered them for this project. So we had to kind of use that data that was collected during the registration process. Then there's a function called pool data function. I think LogAlto also has that function. And you kind of use that function to pull data from existing data sets so that you don't have to type all these things where you make mistakes and then at the end of the day, you don't achieve what you were trying to do. So let me look for this Kingsley that I just displayed. So you have Kingsley here, and as we can see, Kingsley is a male we assign IDs to them during the registration, and from there you start mapping. Because Kingsley is a new farmer, what we did was to do polygon mapping. Polygon mapping is, let me demonstrate it here quickly so that we move to another thing. So I'm in the office, but if you are in the field and you have to map a field, you stand by all the four corners of that field and then pick a point, and then the system will close the points together to form a loop, and then calculate the area that area forms. So let me just try that here. So suppose this is the farmer's field, this area. What you do is that you pick one corner, you go and stand at one corner, pick a point there, stand at another corner, pick another point, and then the system will close the loop. I think for the sake of time, there's still a lot to do. Let me skip this process for now, but this is the form that is collecting the data from the field, and then this is fed onto the ArcGIS system, and then the output is displayed on the dashboard. So let me skip this for now, and let's go on to look at an example in the health. If there's time, we could go back and then look at some of these things. So COVID came, and it was something that we never expected. And reporting COVID cases was just in our part of the world, it was just done anyhow. So I remember at the time, my country director tasked me that we should find a way of getting the information that was coming from the Ministry of Health and then report it in the manner that the public will try to appreciate what was happening. So we took the challenge, and then at the time, these dashboards were not common. So we took the challenge and then sat down and tried to glean the existing information that was available, and then we established this dashboard. And we could report COVID cases in a manner that everybody understood it. We were even trying to get the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health to use this system, but the bureaucracy was just too much. So at a point in time, we abandoned it. So like I said, no, David said yesterday that GIS could be used for what? To monitor disease outbreaks and then all that. So if you look at this map, for instance, let me give you the legend. You are able to see. So we collected the cases region by region. So with just a glance, you are able to tell where we're getting higher cases of COVID. And that's centered around Ashanti region, Western region, Central, and then Eastern. So in that case, if you have resources to deploy to combat COVID, you will definitely know where you should send them. So we deployed this app. Okay. So apart from just visualizing this map, we were able to also deploy them by the region. So for instance, if we wanted to know specifics in Eastern region, you entry, and then it sends you to Eastern region, and you can see the indicators changing. And you are also able to have details of all that was happening in Eastern region for purposes of disease monitoring and how to allocate resources. Yes. So we were also monitoring it in such a way that to see when the destructive curve will kind of stabilize and eventually come down. So every month we're monitoring the cases, and you saw that it was going up and it got to this level, and it started flattering, and then eventually it came down. In fact, we reached here and we saw that the government was not that interested in this, and we stopped collecting the data. So, but then we would have seen where the curve flattened and then eventually slide down. So we were able to deploy this to also monitor all that. Let me move on to education. So education, suppose you are planning an educational project and you have access funds to establish infrastructure, educational infrastructure. What would be your criteria for establishing these facilities? In most cases down here, most of these the siting of these facilities is done politically. But if you were asked as an NGO to do this using science, how will you go about it? So this is a map of Ghana, and let me just remove this. Okay. You are able to, for instance, to see before you do any statistical analysis, you should be able to determine whether your data set is randomly distributed or it is clustered or dispersed. So once you do such analysis and you see that the data is dispersed or the data is randomly dispersed or randomly distributed, then of course it means that whatever is happening within that space is just by chance. So you may not want to even go ahead to find out what is happening within that space because the data is randomly distributed. But you do spatial analysis, and then you, for instance, you use a population data set, and you realize that the population is kind of clustered around certain areas. So if you look at these colors, let me remove this layer for now. So this is population density. This is population density. So population density is basically looking at the population and then the area that the people in that space will occupy. So if you divide the population by the area of, for instance, northern region, you are able to tell the population density, how many people occupy a unit square of that area. So you do this and you can see that the very thick colors, you can see that, for instance, Greater Accra is highly dense, is highly populated. There are more people than the space can actually contain. So in citing educational facilities, what considerations should we make? And I have a layer that contains this population together with the number of schools. I just targeted secondary schools in this particular case. So I tried to run an analysis to find out where these classes, do we have educational facilities also clustering around these densely populated areas. So I did that analysis, and then I overlaid that data over our population density to see whether there's any correlation between the densely populated areas and then the cluster of schools. So let me put the schools. Let me put just a cluster. Let me put the schools in there. So I plugged in the schools layer. Yesterday, David talked about layers. So a layer here is just a collection of schools, secondary schools. And as you can see, we have most of the schools clustered around the densely populated areas. So it means the government is making a conscious effort to kind of put educational infrastructure where we have more population. So, but if you come to a region like Savannah, you see that the area is very wide, very large area, but the secondary schools, the number of secondary schools there are just very few. So as an NGO or as a development partner, if you access funds and you want to kind of put up an infrastructure somewhere, educational infrastructure somewhere, and you don't want to go by the usual political ways of doing things, and you want to use science, I had to, in a way, find a centroid. I said, okay, let me just look at the educational facilities that are existing and find a centroid of those educational facilities and see where we can, for instance, cite a secondary school that will benefit more communities. So as you can see, you have communities in that district. Oh no, yeah, that's the region. Savannah, these are communities. So we find a centroid just around these communities. And in that case, if you cite a school around here, this centroid, which is closer to all the communities that you see here, then we are going to have what? More people accessing that school. So in that case, we have solved the issue of access to educational facilities. And then we could also look at even quality, but there may be a lot of other factors that may contribute. And in GIS, if you have all these data sets, you are able to overlay them and know where to site your school. So in this case, I was able to use the nearest neighbor tool to be able to locate that if you have to set up a school in Savannah region, this will be the appropriate place. This large green dot here, this will be where you need to site that educational infrastructure. So that is that. There's a lot we can talk about this, but let me move to the very last one, and we talk about where is it? We talk about how we could also use GIS in emergency planning and protection. So I have a map here too of Ghana. Recently, we got a project to work with UNHCR, and the project had to work with refugees, asylum seekers from Burkina Faso. Some of you might have heard about the Burkina Faso incident that drew most Burkinabes into Ghana. So they settled around communities in Upper West there, Upper East of Ghana. And then there were concerns about where they were first settled. So we had to employ GIS tool to assess whether where they were settled, for instance, conformed or was in compliance with UN standards, in this case UNHCR, because UNHCR recommends that where you settle the refugees, they should be about, the distance should be about 550 kilometers away from an international border or a potentially harmful place. So where they were initially settled, if you look at the legend here, I'm loading the map. They were settled around this settlement community 1 here, as you can see in the legend. And then we try to use GIS to see whether that distance, that's recommended distance of 50 kilometers was achieved. And in this case, in fact, we were not involved initially in the settlement, but when we came in, they asked us to do some drone mission flight to determine some of these things, and we did that. So let me just run through this legend again. So you see this very red, this is outside Ghana, this is Burkina Faso, and this is where they were first settled. So obviously you could just see that this distance was closer or less than 50 kilometers. They recommended 50 kilometers. So they moved them to a community here. So I'm just going to use GIS to assess whether those guidelines were met. So with these layers, you could just use a measure tool here, and then you measure from a potentially dangerous spot or area. Is a mine here. This is a mine where we understand that these rebels that were attacking the civilians were just around this mine. So it is a potentially dangerous area for these asylum seekers. So initially they were settled here, so they had to move them to a community down there. But then let me see if we can assess and see whether we are within. So I pick my distance from the mine to the new community or the new settlement area, and then you see the distance. The distance is 56 56 kilometers. So in that case, they are in compliance with the UN standards. So I think the time is over, but there's more to do more. But for now, let me pause here, and then if there are questions, I'll try and then answer them. Thank you. If you're over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Joseph, for the presentation. If you have any questions, please raise your hand using the reaction button or the raise hand button, and I would call on you and you can unmute to speak. You can also post your questions in the chat box if you prefer that, and we would also be able to read it out for the presenter. Joseph, while we wait for questions, I know you had a few slides on the general conclusions. If you can get to that, that would also be very much helpful.
Okay, so Efia, thank you for this extra opportunity. So can
you put it in a slideshow mode, please?
Yes, I'm going to do that.
Thank you.
So I was talking about common patterns of use. Here, I'm just trying to look at the common areas that we usually use GIS for. So you can see we use GIS in mapping and then visualization. We use it for data management, field mobility, monitoring.
I don't go, my boss will be on me, Said. He's monitoring me. So that last Monday I was not there. So office mic, but he's speaking. Who office?
Sorry, Joseph, your mic is muted. Joseph, please, your mic is muted. If you can unmute.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I went far, I really went far. Okay, I was just talking about common patterns of GIS use. And here, the common patterns are mapping and then visualization. So visualization, we can deploy maps to show some concepts. Then data management. GIS is a very good tool for data management. Field mobility, we can monitor our field workers. And there's even a native app that you can assign to-do list to your field officers and create a form for them to fill whatever information, and that information gets back to you. So, for instance, inspection, wherever you do inspection work. For instance, if you have to send AEs to the field for them to do specific technology adoption or observations or do some key activities in the field, we can use a tool like ArcGIS Workforce to implement that. And for instance, schools, those who monitor teachers and their schools, we could also use the same tool to do that. Then monitoring. You see, monitoring is core to our programming. So you can also use monitoring. You can also use GIS to do monitoring. Then, of course, analytics, design and planning, decision support. That's where you have a dashboard and you can see things and make informed decisions and then report or give feedback to your beneficiaries. And then it also serves as an accountability tool to show to your donors. The donors are able to tell where their money is going. And then constituent engagements, collaborations. So it is possible to collaborate with other ADRA network country offices so that whatever we can deploy one form and then use that form in a collaborative manner. Then sharing It's almost the same thing here. Then, how do you develop or execute a geospatial strategy? First, there has to be understanding. You have to involve people. David talked about this. You have to involve a lot of people. There must be a buy-in. People must understand what is in there for them. Then when that is done, when that lobbying is done, then you do your planning. And of course, you then act and revisit the process again till you bring everybody on board. Then what can we do? Under planning, what can we do? You assemble your team, engage across your network, make sure everybody buys in. Otherwise, you deploy this and nobody will use it. Articulate your organization's goals and then challenges. Then plan. Under planning, we identify ways GIS can bring business value, create a plan that takes into account people, process, and then technology. Then, of course, we prioritize and sequence our work. David said we should start small, and then as we start small, we develop and then go ahead. Then we act. Where we act, we bring our solutions to life, prepare, implement, operate, and review each of them. Then we share our strategy and successes, revisit our strategy, and then that goes on. You see, I said we have to involve people. So GIS actually has these components. There's a hardware component, software component, data component. You have people and then methods. And the people here, very, very important. So there's this thing that I wanted to show, but there's no time. And let me conclude that there's a surge in donor demand for transparency, accountability from development partners such as NGOs and governments. And as it is rightly put by Professor Edward Deming, an American statistician, author, and then consultant, he says, in God we trust, all others must bring data. And that is why we are using GIS to what? Account for our seed worship. Thank you for this opportunity. May I say?
Thank you, Joseph. We have a few questions in the chat box, and I see one hand raised. I'll start with those in the chat box. Thanks for posting your questions to those who have done that. We really appreciate it. The first question is that, can you send me the download link of the QGIS version you are using? And this is from Uzam. If you can share the link with Shanda and myself, we'll be able to include that in the post-webinar email we circulate, including the recording of the webinar and the presentation. And if you also can speak to it briefly, that would be fine, or reference the site. Someone also said, I have tried several times to install ArcGIS on my laptop, but can't do that. Could you please share any link where I can download the software, as well as step-by-step process of installing the software successfully? And then I'm requesting to share the downloaded link and presentation. Oh yes, the link and the presentation we would share both. So Joseph, these are the ones that have come through the chat. If you have the link to share, great. If not,
yes. If you are, yeah, certainly. QGIS is a free service. I can look for the link and then share it, and they'll be able to download. But if you just go and Google QGIS, you'll be able to download it. It's a free service. But ArcGIS, the one that is trying to install and cannot, ArcGIS is not a free service. It's a premium service, and you have to pay for it. For personal use, you could pay as low as $100 per year. In our case, let me take this opportunity to thank ADRA Afro. ADRA Afro has been in this fight with us all this while, and they have been, in a way, subsidizing our GIS subscription. And I want to use this opportunity to thank them for that effort. And in fact, they have done a lot to support this move. So ArcGIS is a paid service, and for personal use, you could just, do away with some $100, and you have all those bundle servers. It's a bundle service. You have the ArcGIS online, and then the native applications that you can install on either your computer, your smartphone, tablet, and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Abdul Wadud, please go ahead, unmute and ask your question.
Okay. Just not the question. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Joseph, it was really, really nice. I cannot express how beautiful or, informative it was. This is my inability. But really, I have enjoyed it a lot. Out of that, it is out of my curiosity. Can you please give me an idea about the timing and costing to come over there? How much time you had to spend? What was the human resources and some rough cost to, develop this process over there? Is this clear to you?
If I get you right, you want to know the estimated cost to implement GIS?
And timing, yeah, implementation timing.
And timing.
Designing. Yeah.
Yes, timing may be relative because you have to train people, and it will depend on how they can grasp the concepts. But in terms of cost, like I said, it is possible for NGOs. I nearly forgot. For NGOs, it is also subsidized. So in our case, for instance, ADRA Africa has an arrangement with Esri. Esri is the developer for ArcGIS. So we have this arrangement with them where they are giving us an NGO package, and other country offices could also take advantage of that, and it is well subsidized. And I think per country office we pay like also $100 per year. But there are other applications that are not part of the bundle service. So this $100 I'm talking about is for a set of bundle services, and then to also have access to ArcGIS online. But if you want to do, there are other applications that if you want to get them on board, they are standalone, and then you have to pay for them separately to get access to them. I don't know whether I've answered your question. If not, I can still explain.
Perfectly. Thank you so much once again. So nice, yes. And it is pretty clear. Thank you so much.
Yes. So let me add that there's a package for end use. So I'll ask that you people take advantage of that to get on board, and maybe ADRA International could also pick it up so that we could all tap from ADRA International. So instead of having disjointed organizations having to use different accounts. So ADRA International could pick it up and then have that organizational account for ADRA. Then we could all feed into that.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. We are at time already. We will allow Mika to ask the very last question. If you still have questions, please post them in the chat box. We would address them. Also, you can email it to Joseph using his email address on the screen, or in the chat, we have the TLL email address. You can email it to that, and we would address all of them. So the last person, Mika, please go ahead and ask the question.
Okay, thanks Afia and Joseph for the presentation. I'm sorry I kept coming in and out because of internet connection, but I was able to get at least something. When Joseph was talking about data, like how we get data, he talked about linking the GIS with survey 123. Now, I wanted to know, is it that with this software, we can only work with survey 123, or we can also link the software with other tools like Kobo? We have survey to go. I just wanted to know that, because when he was mentioning that, I didn't get it clear because of connection. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your question. Survey 123, or just an example, but this is just one of other native applications that you can use. In fact, Esri has, or should I say, ArcGIS has two types of native applications that you can use. One, they have the map-centric applications, and then the form-centric. ArcGIS for Survey 123 is form-centric. Form-centric means that you are just collecting your data for the first time. You are gathering the data. So you have to deploy an app or a form that will collect the data fresh. But if you have an existing data, yesterday, I think somebody said that we have a lot of data that is sitting down in Excel, CSV, and then all that. We could add geographic components to this data and still be able to deploy them on ArcGIS platform. So it is not just Survey 123. There are other native applications like quick capture. Quick capture is for incident reporting. Then we also have workforce. We have field maps. So in your shot, you are seeing field maps, which is a map centric. So you can deploy your data, even Excel data, over this, and then use it to output it on a dashboard. So QGIS Kobo Collect is not part of the ArcGIS environment, but you can collect your data with Kobo Collect and then convert the data into a format that ArcGIS can use, and then you still deploy it, and then you get it working with your dashboard. So it is possible.
Okay, thank you very much.
I don't know if we have Mark Leroux on still. Mark, if you are on and you are able to speak to how this also works with ADRA source briefly, that would also be helpful. I think it might relate to the question a bit.
Yes, I'm still here. In terms of address source, these files, I guess, can be saved and associated with your project information. You've got, as Joseph was sharing, you've got your native GIS capturing tools and survey tools, and you also within Logalto, within the programmatic side, you've got your custom forms, which also collect GPS information, can run the surveys on your beneficiaries or whatever data you're capturing, and then, as Joseph says, you'll export that into a file which can be imported into mapping tools and then visualized that way. Yeah, so currently there isn't a address source GIS mapping tool as such, but it's something we can definitely look into if there's a wide enough interest.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And I see Sharon posted here. She says, ADRA has a long history of use going back to 27 years ago. I like the example she gave where Haiti, ADRA Haiti staff mapped food distribution sites for their altitude and assigned agroecological zones, then compared this with nutrition data to analyze malnutrition rates by zones for planning. Very, very helpful. Thanks, Sharon, on that example of how we use GIS in our activities. Unfortunately, we cannot take any more questions. If you still have questions or comments or contributions, please email us in any of the options we've given out. And we are going to share the recording, the presentation, and the links that have been requested. Thank you so much, Joseph, for taking time to prepare this presentation. Thank you, ADRA Ghana, for the support. Thank you, Dr. Brown, for your time and for the introductory remarks. We are very much grateful to you all, to our translators, and everyone that supported to make this webinar a success. Thank you so much. We're very much appreciative. Thanks to all our participants. You've made this a great webinar. Hopefully, we'll catch up again soon on another webinar. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, wherever you find yourself. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.